On today's episode of Locked On Stars, Sam Nestler joins the show to give us updates on Matt Dumba, Nils Lundkvist, Thomas Harley, his thoughts on Lian Bichsel, and plenty more.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Rewards. Start earning points on rent you're already playing by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNHL. And now, without further ado, welcome back to Locked On Stars, Sam Nestler, who is now a part of DLLS Stars. Sam, it's so great to have you back in DFW. How has it been, and how's the transition getting to cover the Stars every single day now, which is great?
Yeah, it's been fantastic, Joey. And I gave you a special treat today. I usually get a ton of crap for not having anything behind me when I do the show. So I'm in studio. You just filmed our show today. So I got you a nice background, but it's been great. I talked about this before, but I didn't know about this job situation until like a month before the whole thing happened. It was super fast, but I'm so happy to be back and just happy to be doing this and getting to do it full time, which has kind of been the dream. So happy to be back and talking to you.
Absolutely. Well, we're thrilled you're back. All Stars fans are better for it. And thank you so much for all the wonderful content you guys put out, and we all eat it up. So let's jump right into things. I know you were at the rink earlier today. What are the latest updates on the flu bug situation in Matt Dumba? Seems like all the boys are going through something here lately.
Yeah, the flu. I'm sure there are other people we don't even know about that are fighting it. There was an optional practice today, and I think there were probably 5 guys on the ice, which I think was a big part. They had Holden out there from Make-A-Wish. I think that was probably a big part of it. I would imagine the team probably would have taken days off. I'm assuming we're going to see some days off this week with games coming up in the holidays. But update on Nils and Harley, nothing much. They're recovering. They were at the rink this morning, which is a good sign. I know that Casey DeSmith talked a little bit about his illness, saying how it was kind of a 48-hour, just really, really bad when it was bad. So I guess it's a good sign that they're at the rink, but still recovering. And then Matt Dumba's a big question mark still, because we kind of got that little week-to-week / day-to-day update from Pete, which you never know what it means even when he gives you the updates. But he did say he was at the rink today. I don't know if he's working out off ice or what specifically he's working on, but being at the rink around the guys is usually a good sign. And so I would say he's not really close yet, but nothing bad, no setbacks to speak of. So that's the positive.
Yeah, I believe Hakanpää was week to week for about 3 months during the last few months of the spring. Well, the Stars get a massive win over the Capitals. This week in general is big for Dallas. You got a couple of good teams coming in. I know New York sort of nosedive, but still a team with some pedigree. What'd you take out of the 3-1 win? Stars didn't have their best stuff in the first 2 periods, but they seemed to hunker down, and they got some energy after that Brendan Smith fight. Seemed like it added some juice and injected some life into the lineup, and they were able to get an insurance goal late from Rope too, who had a really nice game.
Yeah, story yesterday for me was players doing what they're supposed to do, right? Pete mentioned their best players had to be their best players, and they were. Rope was great. Robertson was great. Ottinger held it down when they needed him in the first couple periods, and later once they did tie the game and get the lead. You got Miro and Lindell, who were especially Lindell, were just crazy last night. So your best players stepped up and did what they needed to do, and those are the type of games that's what you need, because those are so easily lost, right? That game could have easily been 3-0, 3-1. Washington kind of just fades away, and they just found a way, and that's what they've done lately. And it's really that's 2 or 3 times this year where I've thought to myself, I don't know if they're going to win this game, and they've impressed me. And all the credit to them, not being negative. I really just see it out how it is sometimes, and I say, hey, you know what? They don't have it tonight. They're going to need something special, and so far they found a way to get it each and every time.
Yeah, that was a very pull up your bootstraps and get the job done. I mean, Washington plays such a simple game. It's almost admiring. And I know you mentioned it. Like it is seriously the cliches: get pucks in deep, go get pucks, and put pucks on net. And they do it well. And you saw it on that first goal that they scored from Dylan Strome. Okay, let's talk about the shiny toy though, Lian Bichsel. he's a lot of fun to watch. My dad was at the game. I asked him how big does he look. He said he looks like a moose among deer. I thought that was a great line. I love his game. The thing that sticks out to me is he plays within himself. I don't know what it is, but he gives the Stars something different, and it's a good different. What have you took away from his first 3 games? He even pot a couple goals here in his first 3.
Yeah, he gives them a little bit of bite, and I think that's what this team missed last season and into the playoffs, and honestly, so far this season. Not just the bite of like getting into fights or getting super physical, just the bite of he kind of has that attitude of I don't really care what you want, I don't really care where you're trying to go, I'm going to do what I want to do, and that's what the Stars I feel like have been missing, and you can see it in his play. He pushes people out of the front of the net. He doesn't let guys even get to the front of the net because of how big he is. He doesn't have to do a whole lot with his size to stop people from getting to those dangerous areas and allow Jake Ottinger to see those shots or whoever's in net. So for me, the most interesting part of it is going to be watching him, because it's not a unique, or it's not a standard development path here where it's like, all right, let's give him a few games. If he's not playing great, let's send him back down, because they don't have a lot of options, especially with Dumba out of the lineup. And for me, and I think Sean Shapiro talked about this on our show today and a little bit in his article last night or this morning, just building him up to what he needs to be doesn't always have to be by sending him back to the AHL. That can work. We saw the perfect example of Thomas Harley go from an average defender in the NHL to go down, play 70 plus games in the AHL. He came up as a completely different player, much more confident, much more structured defensively, and he's benefited from it. You can also argue that some guys just need to learn at the NHL level. This team's good. This team's good enough to take those bumps and bruises. And I asked Pete DeBoer about this today. Jim Nils built this team so that they can do that, so that when Mavrik Bourque isn't playing well, they don't have to take him out of the lineup or send him to the AHL. So Oscar Beck maybe has a struggle here and there. They can keep pushing with those guys and let them learn from the bumps and bruises, because they're good enough that they don't feel like a few bumps and bruises from a young guy is going to knock them out of a playoff spot. And that's a really good place to be. And so for me, if I'm the coaching staff or Jim Nill, I'm keeping him up here, whether or not he has a big dip. If he has a dip we're talking 2-3 weeks where he's really struggling, maybe we talk about it, but I don't see that happening with him. I see every time he makes a mistake, he finds a way to adjust and not let it happen again. That's a very, very unique trait for a young player. And it's going to help this team defensively and offensively. He's not going to score 2 goals every 3 games, but he does have a little bit of a deceptive offensive game where he's got a little bit of those Jamie Alexiak type hands that he can make plays. And he's got such a long reach that his shot in whatever the game was, his first game, his shot, it's not a tough shot to save. The goalie can see it the whole way, but because of where it's coming from, it's just very deceptive. You don't really know where it's going or where it's coming from, and that can help him add to the offense as well. So I'm very excited, as I think a lot of Stars fans are. I want to say temper the expectations. Don't think he's going to be Darian Hatcher tomorrow, but a lot to be hopeful about with number 6.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you think he should go back down or stay up, and you sort of answered it right there. He's such a raw defender because he didn't have his best game the other night against a really good Washington team. As you mentioned, he had some mistakes, but he seems to follow it up, and just the anticipation and where his game could go is what's really intriguing. And I think it's a lot of Stars fans excited. I see the value in him possibly going down for a few weeks if need be, but I think the Stars have a really difficult challenge because once Dumba's fully healthy, let's say Harley and Lundkvist, like, can you really send him down? Because DeBoer's sort of gone back, and we heard this with Lundkvist. We're putting the players out there that we think can help us win games. Right. I feel like Bichsel's helping them win games right now. Of course, he's scoring, but it's the other things that he does. So I'm really intrigued to see where this whole conversation and where what they decide to do on him, because I could see him maybe going down for a bit and then bring him up in a few weeks. But you mentioned there's players in place for him to deal with some of those bumps and bruises. I mean, there's trust there. They're playing with Miro Heiskanen. You have trust if you're playing him there. So just good signs all the way around for the big Swiss. Okay. You did touch on Mavrik Bourque a bit, and I did want to ask you this question because I've seen some Stars fans and the Twitterverse throw this out there about Bourque not producing as much, but they feel that he's probably on a 4th line where you're not expected and you're not going to get those type of offensive looks. Where do you stand on sort of the Mavrik Bourque situation, his production, and really just his game as a whole so far this season?
Biggest thing for me with Bourque is the expectations are unfair for him because of Wyatt Johnston and Logan Stankoven.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. People are expecting him to come in and put up 25 goals, and that's just not going to happen. He's got some more developing to do, and I think his style of game takes a little bit more developing. When Mavrik Bourque is at his best, he's a 200-foot player. He can play on the power play, he can play on penalty kill, he can play in his own end, he can create turnovers. He's excellent on the forecheck. That's his game. So that's why I think he hasn't been bad, in my opinion. I think he's been a good player. I don't know exactly how many points he has. I know he hasn't scored in a little bit, but when he's good, it's when you don't necessarily notice him doing all the crazy things, right? It's like an Oscar Beck or a Blackwell or Steele, any of those guys that their role is not defined. Mavrik Bourque might be a top 6 guy on this team in the future, but right now he's not that guy. And I think that's kind of hurting, media, Stars fans, coaches, whoever it is. It's not just one or two people. Like, it's understandable that looking at the young players' success on this team before Mavrik Bourque, and Mavrik Bourque was one of those, the big three that with Stankoven and Johnston. So it's understandable, but I mean, they want to see more out of him. That's as simple as that. But that goes along with what I just said about Bichsel. Pete, I think, even mentioned Mavrik Bourque this morning when I did ask him about that kind of transition and giving players a little bit longer runway. He's got a longer runway because of where this team's at. And I think if the top 2 lines produce, right, which we're starting to see the top line or whatever you want to call it, the Hintz line produce. And we're starting to see a little bit more with Stankoven on that second line or 1B line. If those two are producing, you don't need Mavrik Bourque to score 25 goals. You need him to pitch in a little bit here and there and then grow with the game. And I see him becoming far more confident on the ice, which I think is the biggest thing he needs to develop. When he got hurt and then he had his setback, I remember talking to him in the dressing room one day after morning skate. He was down. He was very down on himself. He was bummed that he came back too early. He pushed it. It's a tough thing, right? He's trying to make this huge transition. He's got all the expectations in the world. And then he gets hurt and he has to miss a bunch of camp. And then he gets another setback and he's got to miss preseason. And it was a lot to go through. And I think the biggest thing for Mavrik Bourque is once he gets confident, once he gets a little more confidence in his game, you'll start to see a little bit more results. And that's not going to be, like I said, 25, 30 goals in his first season, but he's going to start putting the puck in the net. We've seen a couple examples. The goal he had in, I want to say LA, one of those games on the road trip was just a perfect example of Mavrik Bourque. He gets in the corner, wins a puck out, digs it out, throws it to the point, gets hard to the net and picks up a rebound and scores. That's what we want to see on a more consistent basis. And I'm seeing it develop as we go. So I have no problem with where he's at right now. I think that, the expectations probably hurt him a little more than anything else.
Yeah, I think the attributes of Johnston and Stankoven too, their skill sets, they jump out to you. I mean, Stankoven is just like a ball of fire just running out there. And Johnston, of course, he's so smooth, he can skate. And Mavrik Bourque, I think he's mentioned, he's a 200-foot player. He plays a real direct style of game. It's not always sexy, but you mentioned, I think that was a goal against Vegas where he went right to the net. He was able to bat one home. And for me, I feel like he's getting better each and every game is sort of how I look at it. It's just each game is growing a little more confident, and eventually, hopefully the bubble will burst for him or it all clicks. So on the other side, I want to talk to you about Seguin, since I know it's been a while, but I would love for you to talk about sort of his impact on the group and what it means for him to be out the rest of the regular season. We'll look at the Leafs a bit more, and we'll continue this conversation in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Select Quote. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less. While Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as often 15 minutes. You invest so much time to take care of yourself, to be the healthiest, best version of you, and Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. If you are in good health, they work with carriers that could get you same-day coverage for up to $5 million. No medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Today's episode is also brought to you by Built Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Built, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable Built points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points towards flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments with over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program. The possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Built members. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. Joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. All righty, Sam. Tyler Seguin off to such a fantastic start this season, absolutely rolling. I think it was his second best start to a campaign in terms of goal scoring. And we felt like there was always an injury there. And then the news comes out, he undergoes surgery. Now he's out for really the whole regular season. Maybe he comes back in the postseason at some point. What is the impact of Seguin out of the lineup and off? I feel like on and off the ice, as him as a leader, especially with the departure of Joe Pavelski. What does this mean for the Dallas Stars moving forward without Seguin?
I think a lot of people in the Dallas area are understanding just how important Tyler Seguin was to this team, and that goes with or without the points that he's producing. When I really looked at what he does after he went down with the injury, it is just unbelievable to watch his game, how much his hockey IQ, skill, everything he does. And to think back to the fact that he had to completely change the way he plays the game after his previous injuries, losing his whole quad muscle, all these crazy things he's had. It's just too bad is the first thing I thought of. It's just such a bummer. As a person, he's just an incredible guy. One of the most fun people to be around in the locker room. He started, for whatever reason, he started pranking me this year. So tripping me, untying my shoes, tapping on the shoulder while I'm talking to someone else, just like silly things like that. But that really is how he is as a person. He just brings a lot of lightness to him, and he brings a joy to the game when you're around him. I know he was big for a lot of the young guys. He's also won a Stanley Cup, which not a whole lot of those guys around this room right now. So there's a ton of it off the ice and on the ice that he brings to this team. Obviously, the line he was on was arguably the best line in hockey. It's too bad for that line as well. Like I said before, we're starting to see Stankoven get with them a little bit and build, but it's just tough for this team to adjust, because it's not like, it's one thing if he's out, let's say till next season, right? Okay, we need to fix this right now. We need to find someone to fill in on his line. We need to figure out what we're doing with these people. We need people to step into the leadership that's not there. But it's kind of a big question mark. We don't know, like you mentioned, he might be out the whole season and come back for the playoffs. He might be back 3 weeks or 4 weeks before the playoffs start. We have no idea, because the timeline is so open. I think it was a 4 to 6 month original timeline, and that's still where we stand right now on the update. Seguin, I think, flew back to Dallas. I can't remember which day, recently last week. So he's back around his family. I know he's expecting his child in, I believe, January. No. So he's got a lot going on. But it'll be good for him to be back. I don't know how long it takes in the recovery for him to get back around the team and be able to be around the rink a little bit more. But it'll be big for him to be there, and I don't think the rehab situation here, at least as we've heard, is going to be as crazy and detrimental as it was in that 2020, 2021 after the bubble. So that's good for him, right? It's good for him to know, okay, build the right things. I don't have to change the way I walk. I don't have to rebuild muscles like crazy. I just need to rehab an injury that was bad, not saying it wasn't bad, but kind of it's a more understandable and more approachable rehab for him. So I'm excited to see him back around the rink. I'm excited to see him back around the team. And then what I'm really looking to watch is if I'm the coach, there's a reason I'm not, but if I was a decision maker, if Seguin has any chance of coming back 2 weeks or more before the end of the season, I do it. I do not use LTIR and risk it, because I just feel with Tyler Seguin and that line,
oh, absolutely,
you have no clue how long it's going to take for them to get going. If he comes back for game 1 of the playoffs and he isn't ready and he's slow or whatever the reason, whatever the detriment is to his game, that can change your whole team, right? And all of a sudden you're a series or a series and a half into the playoffs, and Tyler Seguin is not really Tyler Seguin yet. It's too much of a risk for me for how important he is to this team. So that's just something we're going to have to watch for. We'll keep asking every few weeks to a month if there's any update. I'm sure if we see him around, that'll be some sort of update. But it's a huge loss. To give you a short answer, it's arguably the biggest loss they could have had with what he does for this team on and off the ice.
Yeah, I mean, 20 points in 19 games. Like they needed some of that goal scoring with some of the slow starts that Robert and some other guys have had. It was just such a fantastic start, and I think all Stars fans just thought, okay, that sucks when the news came out, because he's been such a great player for the organization. And yeah, I think you touched on him on and off the ice. Like he's certainly a big impact. Let's look a bit at Toronto here tonight when this episode goes up on a Wednesday. Toronto first in the Atlantic. We all know what they bring. I think a lot of people would be surprised that Austin Matthews and Robertson both have 21 points this season. Like Matthews isn't lighting up the world, but they have so much offensive talent and weapons, and it's always a dogfight against Toronto. What are you looking out for in tonight's game against the Maple Leafs? Another good squad coming home against a Stars team that seems to be almost unbeatable at home so far this season. And Otter may go again, right? Could be a 7 straight game. Like they're riding him pretty hard.
Yeah, the thing with the Maple Leafs that's always interesting is I think Owen had the exact record on our post-game show last night. I can't remember what it was, but there's something like 13-3 against the Stars in the last 16, something crazy like that. So this is a team that has owned Dallas, whether or not it's here or in Toronto. And the tough part about playing Toronto is no one's thinking, oh god, we got to play the Maple Leafs in the playoffs, because that's just notoriously a time that you want to play them. Regular season is the opposite. This team lights it up in the regular season. This is when Mitch Marner and Nylander and usually Matthews and all those guys are really at their best. That's when you got to really watch out for them. And I every time I think of Maple Leafs coming to Dallas, I just picture that Austin Matthews overtime goal when he celebrated to the crowd. I'm sure many Stars fans picture the same thing. So it's going to be a very tough test. There's a few former Stars that are going to be making their comeback here as well, with Chris Tanev, Domi. I can't remember if there's another one, but Tanev will be a fun thing to watch, because we know what he brings. We know how important he was to this team in the playoffs last year, and it'll be fun to watch him battling with Jamie Benn and those type of guys in front of the net. But I think that the number one thing Dallas needs to do is approach this the right way, because last night you mentioned it, or Monday night you mentioned it, that Washington plays a simple game, super simple. To beat them, you protect your own net, you pretty much have a good chance to win the game. Yeah. Whereas Toronto can score from everywhere, and they are flying. They're off the rush, super skilled. Austin Matthews might just be the best goal scorer, most lethal shooter, at least in the game. So I think approaching the game the right way and not getting into a track meet, I think, is the number one thing for them. If they can slow this game down, kind of bug it up a little bit in the corners and play their style, I think they have a lot of success. If they get into that type of game where they're turning pucks over at the offensive blue line, or letting those guys really get revving, then they might be in some trouble. But I would be very surprised if it's not Jake Ottinger in the net again tonight, tonight, and he'll be tested. That's for sure.
Yeah, Otter's been really good, I feel like, this season. Give me your thoughts on Otter. I feel like he's Dak Prescott of the Dallas Stars. There's people that hate him, or they just love him to death. There's really no in between. And I just like, dude, I feel like he's an elite goaltender. And you watch games like Monday night against Washington, you're like, yeah, like that's what he does more often than not. And yeah, he has stinkers, but he's so young. What is your takeaway on Otter for this season? When he's fully healthy too, I think that's a big requirement.
Very big point there. I think he has a lot to prove this year as well. He didn't have the best season last year after coming off the injury. He told me this summer he basically wasn't able to train or even do anything last summer, 2 summers ago. So wasn't able to go play golf, wasn't able to go, do stuff with his family or any of that stuff. So it's not just the training and the physical part of it. It's not being able to even enjoy your summer vacation, and not a whole lot of summer, right? They were in the Western Conference Finals. So it's not a long summer anyway. To spend that entire time rehabbing and trying to get back on the ice is a really tough challenge. And it showed last season. And people have a right to say that Jake, is inconsistent, because sometimes he is. But the key for Jake is when he's on, he's an elite goaltender. Yeah. When he's not on, I don't see that he drops off that it's not like he's, I'd hate to drop names, but you see a guy like Georgiev who when he's bad, right? Yeah. He's 600 save percentage, allowing 4 goals in the first period. I don't see that from Jake, and he does have a few of those what they call really bad starts. But it's becoming less and less, and I think that's really important. And I've seen I want to put a nail on it. I don't know what it is, but I've seen a different swagger from him this season. Just around the room, around the rink, he just looks like he's very confident in himself. I know the Team USA thing was huge for him. He's very excited about that opportunity. Has a chance to go and probably at least play a game, if not battle it out with Hellebuck for a starting job and against the best players in the world. And there's just a lot going well for him right now, and he's been incredible. He's probably been a little overtaxed. I asked Pete this morning how they felt about the goalie usage, because I know he mentioned he wanted 50 to 55 games if they had their way. And right now, this is going to be 7 straight starts if he starts again tonight. Yeah. Pete actually said, but other than maybe one start with KC while he was sick last week, they feel like they're on pace. And one thing that's really interesting with the goalies of this team is this isn't the Colorado Avalanche or teams that are that really tax their goalies. The Stars don't tax goalies a whole lot. I think Jake probably had 20 saves, and I think 26 saves against Washington, 18 or 19 again in the last game. He doesn't get overly worked. The chances are usually coming from a shot that he's able to see. And when he's able to see a shot, he's probably going to stop it. And that I think is a big thing with Jake Ottinger. But I don't really get a lot of the hate. I think that it's very easy to point fingers at goalies. That's just the way it is. If a team allows 3 goals in the first period, it's the goalie's fault. He's got to get pulled and all these things. I think Jake Ottinger is a top 3, 4, 5 goalie in this league, and I think he's just only going to get better as he matures. I mean, the fact that he's only played three, maybe this is 4th season, I think is
like 4th full, yeah.
It's unbelievable how much he's developed, and he's going to turn 26 years old, I think, tomorrow. And the sky's the limit for him. And I'm really excited to see what he does. And I think, like you mentioned before, with some of the young guys, it's crazy to think that this team is where they are right now, going to back-to-back Western Conference Final in a pretty good spot and looking where to be in the 3rd, 2nd spot of the division, maybe even battle it out for the 1st. And they have so many things that aren't clicking yet. Mavrik Bourque's not clicking yet. They have some guys that aren't scoring. Their top line just started to figure it out. That's pretty good. Champagne problems, I think, is a good way to put it.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun to be had here, I think, in the next few months. And who knows? Maybe Jim Nill will do a little Vegas, get the LTIR going, and bring some bodies in. I do want to ask you about Four Nations face-off a bit, and we'll play Shooting Star here on the other side. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when you hit those picks, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get money in as fast as 15 minutes. They have some plays on the hockey board, looking at Jack Hughes for more than 4 shots on goal, or Timmy Panarin more than 1 assist. You can get in on the action, hockey, football, soccer, you name it. They have it on Prize Picks. Download the app, takes 30 seconds, and you can use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50. You don't even have to win. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. So you touched on the Four Nations face-off and Jake Ottinger, a part of Team USA. I'm completely fired up about this whole thing. I love best on best. I love international hockey. One of my favorite hockey memories growing up. I was on the wrong side of it, but the golden goal, of course, Sidney Crosby. I was glued to the TV. I was probably 12 at that time, just like in my perfect fandom of hockey. How excited are you for the tournament? And which team do you have? I feel like as an American, I still want Finland to do well with all the stars.
Yeah. First of all, so excited. I'm with you. I love the best on best. I've missed it like crazy. And as an American as well, I know that everyone that has anything to do with USA hockey is excited to erase their miserable performance in the 2016 World Cup of Hockey and try to have a shot in this tournament here. But I made a joke the other day. I'm not sure if I'm more excited for the Four Nations or more happy that we're not having an all-star game, because both of those for me are great benefits. Yes. And Jake Ottinger said the same thing. Nothing against the all-star game, but it's just a different animal. This is a totally different thing we're going to see in February. I think that it's cool how they're doing it. I kind of wish they had an extra game in there where maybe there was a semifinal and a final, but I know it's a tight window. They got to fit all those games in. But we're going to see 4 teams that, I mean, look at those lineups. It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Each team kind of has their strength, which is unique. Yeah. Canada is stacked up front, but their goaltending is their weakness. US has really strong goaltending. Maybe their forwards aren't as deep. Finland with their defense is probably their strength. They got about 14 Dallas Stars or former Dallas Stars on that team. Yeah. And then Sweden's kind of the wild card. I asked Nils Lundkvist the other day and I said, hey, do they have a shot? And he said, I think that you should think before you come over here and ask me that, because I think you're going to be surprised. So I'm just excited to watch it. I think it'll be a USA Canada final. I just do, with the way they're doing it. I feel like if it was maybe a semi quarterfinal type of thing, maybe someone can knock one of those guys off. But the fact that they're just going to take the 2 best teams, I feel overall those are the 2 best teams. And I'm going to take the U.S. because of their goaltending. And a bold prediction here. I think Jake Ottinger plays more than 1 game at that tournament.
Heck yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, I'm certainly looking forward. I asked, I have a few Swedes on the team that I cover, the Corpus Christi Ice Rays, and they're looking really forward to watching it as well. I think it's going to be great. It's only going to grow, we hope, right? More teams, more players get involved, and of course, the Olympics too is always a great thing. All righty, Sam. I call this America's favorite segment. It absolutely isn't, but we do it here on Locked On Stars. It's we play Shooting Star. You just pick the MVP for the game of that night. I even have a spreadsheet, and I put them all in there for the fan pick and my picks. We'll see how many we get right. We'll have a new one now for you. We'll have to add a new tab to the spreadsheet. We'll see how many you can get right. I know you're only coming on maybe once a month, but we'll see. So tonight against the Leafs, let me know your pick. Shooting Star. They don't have to score necessarily. It helps, of course, but it's not like scoring first or anything. It's just the MVP for the night.
Wyatt Johnston is my pick for the Maple Leafs. I think he saw what his other 2 line mates did the other night, and he's been coming along at sort of filthy shorthanded goal. I think we've been waiting for his kind of breakout game. Maybe that's a 2-goal performance or a 4-point performance. I don't know, but I think he's a huge part of that win against Toronto.
All righty. Okay. There you hear it here first. A big win. I'll go with Mason Marchment. It's been 4 games without a goal for him. It's a bit of a selfish reason. I predicted him to have 30 goals this season, so we need to keep that pace. So I'm going with Mush to get it done tonight against Toronto, and what I hope is a Dallas Stars victory. All righty. That'll wrap up today's episode of Locked On Stars. Sam, thank you so much for coming on. This will be a bit more of a regular thing here on Locked On Stars and DLLS. Tell the wonderful Stars fans, I'm sure they already know about it, but let them know where they can find you and the wonderful podcast you guys are doing, and look forward to catching up more.
Yeah, thanks again. This was a lot of fun. I always love jumping on with you, but you can check us out anywhere at DLS Sports on YouTube, is where we live stream all of our shows. At DLS Stars, I believe, _stars. I think that's the Twitter page, but most of our stuff's going to be on YouTube, and then alldls.com for articles by myself, Sean Shapiro, fun little breakdowns from Craig Ludwig on hockey, which is always a fun time. So check us out, become a diehard if you want to. You're able to jump in, chat with us, be part of the conversation. It's really a lot of fun. I know Joey enjoyed his time, and I enjoy my time here as well. It's a fun community we have here, so appreciate all the support.
Absolutely, yeah. Craig's a beauty. He's a beauty and a lot of fun. All righty, well, thanks again. Have a good rest of your day. Stars fans, enjoy the game tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll break it all down, all that good stuff. Until then, so long, Stars fans.